orientation program for NEET aspirants. NEET தேர்வு எழுதும் மாணவர்களுக்கான இது ஒரு வழிகாட்டி நிகழ்ச்சி. இன்றைய வகுப்புல மல்டிபிள் சாய்ஸ் கொஸ்டின் டைப்ஸ் பிராக்டிஸ் பத்தி பார்க்க போறோம். ப்ரீவியஸ் இயர்ஸ் கொஸ்டின் பேப்பர்ஸ் பார்த்தோம்னா குறிப்பா ஜுவாலஜில 60% கொஸ்டின்ஸ் வந்து WH கொஸ்டின்ஸா இருக்கும். WH கொஸ்டின்ஸ்னா which, when, where, who, whom இந்த சென்டென்ஸ்ல இந்த வாக்கியம் கொஸ்டின் வந்து தொடங்கும். ரிமைனிங் 40% எப்படி இருக்குன்னா சீக்வன்ஸ் டைப்ஸ், செலக்ட் கரெக்ட் ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட், செலக்ட் இன்கரெக்ட் ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட், மேட்சிங் பேர்ஸ், டயக்ராம் பேஸ்டு கொஸ்டின்ஸ், ஃபில்லப்ஸ், ரீசன் அண்ட் அசர்ஷன், இந்த மாதிரி கேள்விகளா இருக்கும். பொதுவா ஒரு கேள்விக்கு நம்ம விடையளிக்கிறதுல 4 ஸ்டெப் இருக்கு. ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வந்து அந்த கேள்வியை படிச்சு பார்க்கணும், ரீடிங். பிறகு அந்த கேள்வியை புரிஞ்சுக்கணும், அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்டிங். பிறகு அந்த ஆப்ஷன் செலெக்ஷன். 4வது ஷேடிங் த ஆன்சர் இன் த OMR ஷீட். அந்த ஆன்சரை ஷேட் பண்ணணும். இந்த 4 ஈவெண்ட்டையும் நம்ம 1 நிமிடத்துல முடிக்கணும். அப்போ நம்மளுக்கு போதுமான பயிற்சி வேணும். குறிப்பா இந்த சீக்வன்ஸ் டைப்பு, ரீசன் அண்ட் அசர்ஷன், டயக்ராம் பேஸ்டு கொஸ்டின்ஸ், செலக்ட் த கரெக்ட் ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட், இன்கரெக்ட் ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட், சீக்வன்ஸ் டைப், இப்படி எல்லாம். இன்றைய வகுப்புல நம்ம சீக்வன்ஸ் டைப் கொஸ்டின்ஸ்க்கு எப்படி தயார் பண்றது என்றதை பத்தி இப்ப நம்ம பார்க்க போறோம். That classification involves various hierarchical steps. Each hierarchical steps is called a taxonomical category. Then each category is the unit of classification. That all categories together constitute taxonomic hierarchy. So you know what is taxonomic hierarchy, which includes number of categories. Okay, the first species. You know, the species is the fundamental units of all types of classification, which includes animals which are having same number of chromosomes, which are morphologically similar, which are reproductively isolated and able to produce fertile offspring. So what is species? Is the basic unit of classification. The next we pass on to the next one, the genus. Genus, which includes number of closely related species, right? And the family which includes a number of related genera, and order which includes number of related families, and class which includes number of related order, and then phylum which includes number of classes with similar characteristic features, and then kingdom. All living animals belonging to various phyla are grouped under kingdom Animalia. And then next higher level is the domain. Domain is nothing but super kingdom. That word domain was coined by Carl Woos in the year 1977. He classified the domain into 3 types. One is archaea, bacteria, and eukaryota. Okay, my dear student, you know the taxonomic hierarchy. For example, now you will study the systematics of human beings. First, you will start with man. The biological name of man is Homo sapiens. The species name is sapiens. And what is meant by sapiens? That sapiens means animals walk with 2 legs, bipedal, and higher thinking intelligence. That is power of thinking. That's why the animals having the power of thinking and bipedal walk are grouped under sapiens. The next category is genus. Homo means hominids with large brain and upright postures, that is standing erect, and large brain. You know, the brain of man is about 1360 gram or 1.36 kilogram. And then next we come to that next category, family Hominidae, which includes the order primates with relatively flat face. Human beings are all having flat faces and binocular visions, and both the eyes are seeing the same object, so that it forms a single visual image, binocular visions. And then order primata, that is mammals with forward looking eyes and grasping fingers. You know, the fingers are used for manipulating various, for example, manipulation like writing or pushing or pulling or அல்லது the piano வாசிக்கிறது, மரம் ஏறுறது, இது மாதிரி எல்லாம் grasping fingers யூஸ் பண்றோம். And with the forward looking eyes, both eyes are facing in the same direction. And then class Mammalia, which is characterized by the presence of body hair. Body is fully covered with hair, or in some animals it is fur, or another interesting feature is the mammary gland. The presence of mammary gland is the peculiar mammalian character. Then next category is chordata. You know chordata, chorda means string, eta means bearer, animals with notochord, which is modified into vertebral column in vertebrata. The next higher category is kingdom Animalia, which includes animals. So you must know, this is an example about the systematics of human being. Now we come to the question part. So here the question is rearranging the following in the descending order. The descending order அப்படினு சொல்லும்போது first வந்து kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. So you must know the hierarchy, taxonomic hierarchy thoroughly. Now we come to the male reproductive system of frog. In that male reproductive system consists of a paired testis, which is yellow color, paired testis, and you know testis consists of numerous seminiferous tubules, and the seminiferous tubules which forms the testis, the sperm, and the sperms which are formed in the seminiferous tubules are passed to the vas efferentia through rete testis, and then first vas efferentia which enters into the kidney. Inside the kidney there is a canal called a Bidder's canal, and from that Bidder's canal it reaches the seminal vesicles and then ureter. And these seminal vesicles and ureter collectively called urinogenital duct, and which opens into the common opening, namely the cloaca. And before it opens into cloaca, it enters into urinary bladder and opens outside through the cloaca. So the male reproductive system consists of paired testes. The testis made up of seminiferous tubule which forms the sperm, and the sperms which is formed inside the seminiferous tubule reaches the vas efferentia through rete testis, and the vas efferentia enters into the kidney where it opens into the Bidder's canal, and the Bidder's canal opens into the seminal vesicles and ureter, and finally it comes outside through the cloaca. And the seminal vesicles and ureter are collectively called the urinogenital duct. So now we come to the question part. Select the correct route for the passage of sperms in male frog. You know, my dear student, sperms are formed in the testis, and from the testis vasa efferentia arises, and the vasa efferentia enters into the kidney, and the kidney, inside the kidney there is a Bidder's canal, and that Bidder's canal opens into urinogenital duct, and which opens outside through the cloaca. So the option 3 is the correct answer. Next we come to that alimentary canal of cockroach. You know, my dear student, the digestive system of cockroach consists of two parts. One is the alimentary canal, the other one is the digestive glands. Here we are going to see about the alimentary canals of cockroach. You can divide the alimentary canal of cockroach into three parts: the foregut and midgut and the hindgut. The foregut consists of that mouth opens into pharynx, and the pharynx opens into esophagus, and esophagus opens into crab, which is a sac-like structure which temporarily stores the food, and from the crab it enters into the gizzard, which grinds food particle, which consists of nearly some 6 cartilaginous teeth-like structure which helps to grind the food particles, and from the gizzard it enters into the midgut. The midgut is the short and narrow tube. At the junction between the foregut and midgut, that is just below the gizzard, there are some 8 hepatic cecae. That they act like a liver. They produce some digestive juices. Hepatic cecae. Hepatic means liver. There are 8 in number. And then the midgut, between the midgut and hindgut, there are numerous 100 to 150 fine yellow color tubules called Malpighian tubules. They are excretory in function. They simply floating on the hemolymph, the body cavity of cockroach filled with colorless fluid called hemolymph. Since there is no hemoglobin, it is colorless hemolymph, and from that the waste, excretory waste materials are collected by the Malpighian tubules, and from the Malpighian tubules, the Malpighian tubule collect the waste material and dump it into the ileum, and from the ileum and colon, and opens outside through the rectum, and rectum opens outside through the anus. So colon, ileum, colon, rectum forms the hindgut. So this is about the alimentary canal of cockroach. So here you have to remember 2 interesting things. One is the hepatic cecae, the other one is the Malpighian tubules, and another interesting structure, crab. And now we come to the question part. Select the correct sequence of organs in the alimentary canal of cockroach, starting from mouth. So the correct answer, that mouth is always starts with mouth leads to pharynx, pharynx to very well. Pharynx opens into esophagus, and esophagus opens into crab, crab opens into gizzard, which is followed by ileum, colon, rectum. So option 1 is the answer. Correct sequence on the first one. Now we come to the digestive system in man. My dear student, the digestive system consists of the alimentary canal and digestive gland. Now we come to that, that mouth is followed by buccal cavity. The buccal cavity is followed by pharynx, which is the common opening. Then pharynx is followed by esophagus, stomach, and then the small intestine. The first part of the small intestine is the duodenum and jejunum and ileum. Ileum is the largest part of the small intestine, which opens into the large intestine. The junction between the ileum and the first part of the large intestine called the cecum. You know what is cecum? Cecum is nothing but a blind pouch-like structure, where there is a finger-like projection called appendix. This cecum and appendix are well developed in herbivorous animal. Then this cecum opens into the colon. Then colon consists of 4 parts: the ascending colon and transverse colon and descending and S-shaped sigmoid, and then rectum, which opens outside through the anus. Inside, the colon, when you see the colon, the lining of colon, there are some dilations. The dilations in the lining of the colon is called the ostra or ostrum, right? Okay, so ascending, transverse, descending and sigmoid, and colon opens into rectum. where the rectum is the place where the fecal matter is temporarily stored, and which is opens outside through the anus. So you know the flow chart of human digestive system: mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, duodenum, jejunum, ileum, cecum, ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon, rectum, and anus, which opens outside through the anus. Now we come to the question part: which is the correct sequence of parts of large intestine? You know, my dear student, large intestine, the junction between the small intestine and large intestine, the structure is called a cecum, which is followed by colon. Colon opens into rectum and anus. No, so the correct option is cecum, ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon, and rectum. So the option 3 is the answer. Now we come to that histology of alimentary canal. You know, this is very interesting and important also. Here in the alimentary canal, you know, the cross section of the alimentary canal shows 4 regions. The outer serosa, which is a visceral epithelium, which is lined by a simple squamous epithelium with some connective tissues. So the serosa is the outer layer, and then inside to that serosa, muscularis. Muscularis, there you can see smooth muscles, that is smooth muscles, outer longitudinal muscles and inner circular muscles. So both these circular and longitudinal muscles together forms muscularis, and these muscularis are innervated with parasympathetic nerve, which controls the peristaltic, the wave-like propulsions occur in the alimentary canal, right? So muscularis, and inside the muscularis, the layer is submucosa. You know, submucosa, which is filled with smooth connective tissues, and also richly supplied with blood vessels, lymph vessels, and nerves. Here it's surrounded with it is provided with sympathetic nerves, which is responsible for secretion of intestinal juices. And the inner layer is the mucus layer. You know, this inner layer, which is lined with lumen of the alimentary canal. Inner layer is mucus layer, which secrete mucus. So the cross section of alimentary canal shows 4 regions: outer serosa, muscularis, submucosa, and mucus layer. It is a very important part. Select the correct structural sequence of alimentary canal facing from inside to outside. See, understand the question inside to outside. While answering the question, we have to be very careful because the question from எது key point ன்னு பார்க்கணும். இந்த கொஸ்டின்ல key point inside to outside. நம்ம நேரடி எடுத்த உடனே ஆன்சர் எழுதக்கூடாது, கொஸ்டினை புரிஞ்சுக்கணும். இத மாதிரி ஒவ்வொரு கொஸ்டின்லயும் நாட் என்ற ஒரு வேர்டு இருக்கா பார்க்கணும். ஈச், ஒன்லி, ஆர் ஓவர், அண்டர், இது மாதிரி, அல்லது ஹைப்போ, ஹைப்பர், இது மாதிரி சில வேர்டிங்ஸ் தான் நம்மள செக் பண்ணோம். அது மாதிரி இதுல கீ வேர்டு எதுன்னு பார்க்கணும். இதுல கீ வேர்டு இன்சைட் டு அவுட் சைட். அப்போ இன்சைட் டு அவுட் சைட் சொல்லும் போது ஆன்சர் எப்படி மாறும்னா, இன்னர் லேயர் நம்மளுக்கு தெரியும் மியூகோசா. மியூகோசா அடுத்தது சப்மியூகோசா, அடுத்தது மஸ்குலாரிஸ், அடுத்தது சீரோசா. So the option 3 is the correct answer for inside to outside. The next question: the lining of intestinal wall from outside to inside. Outside to inside is made up of, you know my dear student, outside la serosa irukum, serosa ku ulla muscularis. Muscularisல ரெண்டு லேயர் மசில்ஸ் இருக்கு. ஒன்னு லாங்கிட்யூட் மசில்ஸ், இன்னொன்னு சர்க்குலர் மசில்ஸ். அதுல எது வெளியில இருக்கும் அப்படின்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா லாங்கிட்யூட் மசில்ஸ். So the option B, longitudinal muscles, which is followed by circular muscles and which is followed by submucosa and mucosa. So this is the correct answer. See, இந்த இடத்துல நம்ம என்ன தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும்னா, அந்த கொஸ்டின்ல இருக்கிற கீ வேர்டு எதுன்னு பார்த்து அதுக்கு தகுந்த மாதிரி நம்ம ஆப்ஷனை செலக்ட் பண்ணணும். இங்க வந்து அவுட் சைட் டு இன்சைட் கேட்டிருக்காங்க. Next we come to that path of air into the lungs. You know very well. Simply it's the respiratory system. We are having nose, nostrils, paired nostrils, and nostrils which contain nasal cavity, which is lined with epithelium, which acts as an air conditioner, which conditions the air which enter into the lungs. And then the mouth, see here, nose followed by nasal cavity. The nasal cavity opens into pharynx. You know, pharynx is a common opening. Pharynx opens into the larynx. Between, I see the opening of the larynx is guarded by epiglottis. It's a cartilage flap-like structure, thereby preventing the entry of food into the trachea. So the larynx, you know, in human beings, it's also called a voice box, and which is followed by trachea. In this trachea, you can see trachea is lined with C-shaped cartilages, which keeps the pipe always open, so that the air continuously enter inside and leaving outside. You know the difference between the esophagus and the trachea. In the trachea, the air always moving in and out, so it should be always kept open. This is possible because of the trachea is supported by C-shaped cartilage, whereas in esophagus no such support. See, it can open only at the time of taking food, and the rest of the time it get collapsed, right? So you know the difference between trachea and esophagus. You know the trachea, before entering into the lungs, they divide into two branches called bronchi, and inside the bronchi, divides into number of small bronchioles, and then the bronchioles finally end with air sacs, which contains alveoli. You know the alveoli, which is lined with a squamous epithelium, where exchange of gases takes place. These are the pathway of air into the lungs: nose, nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, and the alveoli. Right, path of air into the respiratory system, as you know already, nasal cavity, and then pharynx, larynx, trachea, and then bronchi, bronchioles, and end with alveoli or air sacs, where exchange of gases takes place. So you must know the sequence. Now we come to the question part. Which is the correct sequence of air passages in man? The answer you know very well. In the எல்லா கேள்வியிலும் இங்க வந்து nasal cavity ல ஆரம்பிக்குது. Nasal cavity opens into pharynx. Pharynx opens into larynx, and trachea, and trachea divides into bronchi and bronchioles and alveoli. Option B is the correct answer. Nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, and alveoli. Option B is the correct answer. Now we come to that double circulation in man. You know, in man, there are two types of circulation. One is from the heart to the lungs and back to the heart. Then another one is from heart to various parts of the body, and from the various parts of the body to the heart. So there are two circulation. So here you can see from, you know very well, the right side of heart always filled with deoxygenated blood, because the blood collected from various parts of the body enters into the right atrium, and from the right atrium the pulmonary artery carries the blood to the lungs, where the blood is oxygenated. The oxygenated blood carried by the pulmonary vein to the left atrium, and from the left atrium blood enters into the left ventricle, and from the left ventricle the oxygenated blood is carried through the aorta into various parts of the body. So you must know the double circulation in man. Now we come to the question part. In order for the blood to flow from the right ventricle to left ventricle in mammalian heart, it must flow through. இது மாதிரி கேட்கும்போது கொஸ்டின் வந்து ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வந்து ரைட் வென்ட்ரிக்கல்ல இருக்கிற அந்த டிஎக்ஸ்ன பிளட்டை பல்மரி ஆர்டரிஸ் வந்து லங்ஸுக்கு எடுத்துன்னு போது பிறகு லங்ஸ்ல இருந்து பல்மரி வெயின்ஸ் வந்து லெஃப்ட் ஏட்ரியத்துக்கு கொண்டு வந்து விடுது. ஸோ த ஆப்ஷன் ஏ இஸ் த கரெக்ட் ஆன்சர். ரைட் வென்ட்ரிக்கல் followed by pulmonary artery to the lungs, and from the lungs to the through pulmonary vein it enters into the left atrium. Now we come to the interesting part, origin and conduction of the heartbeat. You know, my dear students, this is very important, how the impulses for the contraction relaxation of the heart is produced. You know very well SA node, sino-auricular node, which is on the right side of the heart, and from that the impulses reaches the auriculoventricular node. There is another node between auricle and ventricle, and you know, the sino-auricular node, since it generates the impulses, they are called a phase maker, whereas the auriculoventricular node, which carries the impulses to other parts of the heart, so it is called a phase setter. And then from the auriculoventricular node, there is a connective tissue, bundle of tissue called bundle of His. His is the name of the scientist, and which contains two branches of Purkinje, and then which spreads the entire impulses to the entire part of the ventricle. So this is how the impulses for the contraction of the heart is initiated and conducted. SA node to AV node to bundle of His to the through Purkinje fibers, the impulses spreads to the entire part of the ventricle. Now this is the sequence for origin and conduction of the heartbeat. First sino-auricular node, and then that is internodal atrial pathway, and then arterioventricular node and bundle of His, and then Purkinje system. Now we come to the question part. The rhythmic heartbeat is maintained by highly specialized excitatory and conductive system. The correct sequence of events will be, you know very well, the SA node. The SA node, which is the phase maker, generates the impulses for contraction, and then it passes to the next node, AV node, and from the AV node through the bundle of His, and from bundle of His to the Purkinje fibers, the impulses spreads the entire part of the ventricles. இது வரைக்கும் நம்ம மல்டிபிள் சாய்ஸ் கொஸ்டின்ஸ்ல சீக்வன்ஸ் டைப்ஸ் எப்படி தயார் பண்றதுன்றதை பத்தி பார்த்தோம். நம்ம படிக்கும் போதே அந்த தலைப்புகள்ல அமைந்திருக்கிற இந்த சீக்வன்ஸ் டைப் கொஸ்டின்ஸ் எல்லாம் நம்ம தேர்ந்தெடுத்து அதுக்கு முக்கியத்துவம் கொடுத்து படிக்கும்போது குறைந்த நேரத்துல நம்மளால விடையளிக்க முடியும். தேங்க்யூ.